My hands are shaking. Marks are crawling all over me. Son of a bitch, give me a drink. One more night, can't fit me. Oh, son of a bitch, if I can't get clean, I'm gonna drink my life away. Hey, son of a bitch, give me a drink. Son of a bitch, this can't fit me. Son of a bitch, if I can't get clean, I'm gonna drink my life away. Yeah.
Now there are those who like to think we'd be best without the drink. No beer, ale, or frothy pints of porter. So let's hypothesize how it would change your life if everyone were only drinking water. There'd be no public houses, no bars to take our spouses, no party kegs or cans to celebrate, no deliriums or visions, regrettable decisions, no excuses to be coming home too late. So brothers, sisters, it's time to take a stand. You can fry my beer from my cold dead hand. Raise 'em up and drink 'em down. Yeah, raise 'em up and drink 'em down. There'd be no swinging from the rafters, no bleary morning after. We wouldn't challenge strangers to a fight. There'd be no singing around the fire with a drunken boozy choir. We'd all be home and tucked up for the night. We'd have no wake to wake the dead. We couldn't wet the baby's head or toast the bachelor or bride to be. We'd have no cheery pint us up watching Ireland lose the cup. We barely need to go and have a pee. So brothers, sisters, it's time to take a stand. You can fry my beer from my cold dead hand. Raise 'em up and drink 'em down. Drink 'em down. Yeah, raise 'em up and drink 'em down. Drink 'em down. For every barmaid, every waiter, both sides of the equator would be out of work and living on the dole. The wealth of every nation depends upon libations. Beer, it seems, is worth its weight in gold. Well, we've assessed the pros and cons, thought about the rights and wrongs, the hellfire into which we could be hurled. Now get that pint into your face. You can save the human race. You're drinking for the future of the world. So brothers, sisters, it's time to take a stand. You can fry my beer from my cold dead hand. Raise 'em up and drink 'em down. Drink 'em down. Yeah, raise 'em up and drink 'em down. Drink 'em down. Yeah, raise 'em up.
Hi, welcome to the February Brewer Guild meeting. I am your new president, Lynette Good, in case you do not know who I am, which is totally possible. I will do my best to remember your faces, if not your names, but I will work on that. So we have a lot of people in our Zoom call, which is super awesome. Glad to see everybody. And if you are drinking anything exciting or not, just let us know in the comments for Facebook and YouTube. And if you're in the Zoom call, in the chat. And we already have a question from Greg wanting to know who has brewed recently or in the process of brewing. So he's interested to know what people are doing. Next slide, please. We will be having happy hours virtually for a while now, at least till May, even though the slide says March, but we'll plan on till May or June. And then the next slide. So we do have some upcoming events. We are going, Parkville is in October, as is Brewfest. We are planning on having Brewfest this year, till we know differently. The holiday party is December 4th, and we are also planning on doing our beer competition this year. But that is to be decided as we need to discuss how that's going to happen. But there will be updates as those come. Next slide. We need committee heads for Brewfest. This is just an FYI for this month for you guys to start thinking about it. Ideally, we want to have 2 people as co-heads for the committees so that we have one person who has done this before and knows what they're doing to help train and apprentice a new person. So we want one experienced, one new. So we pass along that knowledge to the next group of people who volunteer. Next slide. Then again, back to the beer comp, we need people to volunteer to organize it. I could not find exactly what sort of things we need for that, but we will come up with specifics in the next month or so for the next meeting. So if you would have the time, please consider volunteering for a aspect of our brew competition besides brewing. Next slide. According to Ryan, we still have some t-shirts. I believe they are at Clint's house. Is that correct, Clint? That is correct. And back to the comments. It looks like Josh says he's brewing a Belgian quad that is keg conditioning and has been in secondary for 4 months. That will be super tasty when it's done. He also has an imperial stout that is in secondary with some bourbon oak chips in it. That sounds great. Ooh, and a blonde coffee ale. That also sounds tasty. Josh has been very busy. And Dale has frozen kegs. What's next? Next slide, please. And then we are off to Jake with the treasure reports.
Thanks, Lynette. So we are up to, I think, actually 14 paid members now. So I had a few more come in just recently. Thanks, everybody, for supporting the Guild. Really appreciate it. We'll review some of the club benefits next month, but you know, just a reminder, we're planning on Brewfest, Parkville, so pay those dues, get joined up so you can visit those events. And as always, don't forget, send through PayPal as a friend. Avoid those fees. So go ahead and hit the next slide there, Frank. All right, so we ended up bringing in about $212 through, that's all membership dues this month, and just $60 on our internet. And so we're hanging right around 6,000 for our bank. Still holding strong. Frank, hit me on the next one, please. So I left 2019 on the chart for us this year to just kind of see where we're following, where we're tracking from what we would call a normal year. And then, of course, 2020 is on there as well. So we're in a little bit lower than we normally are, probably just memberships coming in a little bit slow so far. So, and that's it for treasurer report.
Okay, hopping back to the comments. Steve Fritz says he has a dunkel that is currently lagering. Tara says they are drinking a brown ale, a Citra IPA, and a cider. And then from Facebook, Travis says they have a wee heavy fermenting along with a Belgian quad. They have a lot of heavy beers that are going at the moment, which all sound delicious. And so we are back to Tara for the library report.
Okay, so during the happy hour, we discussed that the books are still at the church. So the library is temporarily closed for the next 2 to 3 weeks until me and Lynette can go over to the church and pick up the books, and we'll bring them to my house. And then next slide. And so how do you check out books? I'm going to go ahead and give out my phone number. If you're interested in checking out books, text me is the best way, and then tell me what you would like to check out. Next slide. And how do you get the books once the library knows what book you want? Hopefully we're going to have a list published somehow. I'm going to discuss that with the group. And either we can deliver them to your house if you're in Lawrence or near our shop in Olathe, or you can pick them up at my house, and hand sanitizer and mask are required. So next slide. Was that it, Frank? I forgot if I put another slide on or not. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna hopefully make a list out of all the books that we have available, and sort of like a card catalog, except on either Facebook or the forum probably. And that's it for the library report. Any suggestions, please text, or I can give you out my email too.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. So keep up with stuff on the forums. There is going to be some new stuff up there. We're going to be posting sign-up sheets for Brewfest committees and signing up for the beer competition. I'm also working on a survey for the club to get a feel of what people think and what they want, and see how we can make that happen. We also have some ideas that we want to try out, and I didn't make any slides for this, sorry, such as a equipment share between the club members who have some extra equipment that they may or may not be currently using. So we'll try to set up some sort of Google Sheet sign up and contact method for that. That will also be part of the survey to see who would be willing to participate in that. And then we have our guest speaker for the evening. His name is John Moreland. He is part of the AHA, and he is the managing something director. I am so sorry. John?
Oh, yeah. Was that my intro? Okay. Hey,
yeah,
everyone.
that was your intro. Sorry.
Cool. John Morehead here. I'm the competition manager with the American Home Brewers Association. That is partly what I do. It's the primary component of my work. I run National Homebrew Competition along with normally Great American Beer Festival Pro-Am competition. We have a Capitol Hill staff homebrew competition, which is more of the government affairs work. And then I work on educational content as well for HomebrewCon and setting up this program for clubs. Frank, are you going along here with the presentation? Okay. Cool. Sweet. Neato. Great. Okay. You can go to the next slide if you'd like. Just quick, want to share this discount code with you guys as a club. If you are all interested in either renewing or joining the HA, use this code when you check out for the activation code box in the join now. That's all for that slide. You can go to the next one. Just wanted to kind of go over some AHA stuff before I jump into the main point of the presentation, which will be competition organization and sensory. And happy to kind of go wherever the conversation needs to go that best serves you guys. As far as, I heard that you guys want to put on a competition this year. Happy to provide information on some things that we worked on for virtual judging. Happy to talk about National Homebrew Competition as well and what we're doing for that, or something completely different that has nothing to do with either of those. You guys kind of keep the dialogue open rather than me just talking to you for 40 minutes. Just quickly go over that the HA is. We're a 501c6, so a not-for-profit association. We're part of the Brewers Association, which is the trade group for breweries in the U.S. Established in 1978 by Charlie Papazian and Charlie Matson. Started with Zymersy Magazine in Boulder, Colorado. Grown from that time period to 40,000 members worldwide. We publish Zymersy Magazine, which is like a real tangible of the association membership. And then we have a variety of events, exclusive events for members only. So, I mentioned National Homebrew Competition, which is coming up here, and then HomebrewCon, which is held in June typically. And this year, San Diego, so far is what the plan is in person, but remaining flexible with how that plays out with having mass gatherings come June. As well as AHA member deals, which are just discounts at homebrew shops and breweries in your area. And if there is a company, a brewery, or a shop that you would like to see give a discount to AHA members, let us know, and we can reach out and talk to them and try to figure out a deal for all of you to take advantage of. Next slide. Cool. Just wanted to go over Zymergy quickly. Online, there are 20 years worth of Zymergy articles and issues. So, if you did join or you are a member, this is a huge access archive for anyone who's interested in learning pretty much about anything brewing. Go in there, totally redid the website that we rolled out a few weeks ago. So much easier, much more intuitive. Highly encourage anyone interested in learning about any topic to go in and search there. Next slide. I'd like to give a brief overview of our membership, since there are plenty of you on here that are AHA members, and just like to share the overall kind of status of the association. So as you can see, there's kind of a slight dip right now in membership from 2017, 2018 at 46,000 members or so. We're down to 39,000. That fluctuates from month to month because people are expiring every month, but over the last few years, we have seen a slight dip in membership. It's for a variety of reasons, we think. And if there are questions on that, I'm happy to go into that. But overall, the association is healthy, and we still represent homebrewers, whether you're a member or not. So next slide. I like throwing this slide in here because it kind of puts everything in perspective of who we are and how much of an impact we can give as a homebrewer in a community, despite only making 5 or 10 gallons or 1 gallon or 2.5 gallons at a time or more, depending on your system. But there are over 1 million of us in the U.S., which is a lot. And our economic impact from 2018 is $750 million, which is also a lot for only making 1 carboy at a time. So that all kind of adds up. And there are 600 retailers across the US, which, you guys support the ones in your area. We try to support all of them across the US with a variety of resources and benefits. There are 1,800 clubs in the US, which has been growing since I've been part of the association. You guys are one of them, obviously. There's some demographics in here as well, which kind of gives you an idea of, the AHA member and who we are, who all of you are. And yeah, anyway, I'd just like to throw that in as kind of a nice perspective on the homebrewing community and industry. Next slide is we work a lot on legislative affairs at the state level primarily, but we do some work at the federal level. Constantly monitor. I know it's legal in all 50 states, but not every state has homebrew legislation written into the state alcohol code and has its own dedicated statute. So whether that state has adopted federal statute or continuously needs to be updated because of reinterpretations of code, or something is vague and new personnel turns over in an agency, whether it be liquor control or some other regulatory agency, issues are constantly popping up, and we're constantly keeping our thumb on the pulse for those types of things. So although it's legal everywhere in the US and federally legal, there's always always something going on. Next slide. We like to throw this in here. It's a new initiative from our governing committee and staff on putting together a plan for diversity, inclusion, and equity. We just hired our diversity ambassador, Dr. J, with the Brewers Association. She is now full-time with the Brewers Association, and that would include the AHA. So really ramping up our efforts and putting money where our mouth is as far as growing the community and becoming a more inclusive association and hobby. Next slide. Most of you, I know most of you are aware, or at least the president or the officers are aware of this program. I think. Club insurance. I'm not going to read this entire slide, but thank you for participating in it, and hope it helps you guys a lot. It's something that we love providing the clubs. I think it's really important to provide the clubs this particular benefit, and have an incentive for any club that hits 75% of their club membership being AHA members. They get reimbursed all those premiums, so they can use those premium dues for cooler things than insurance. So anyway, next slide. My last slide before we go into competition organization and questions and sensory is just kind of homebrew club support and statistics across the US. I mentioned the club insurance program. We have a referral program, so that's kind of interesting hack would be if a club participates in that referral program, every person that signs up through that link can get reimbursed for every membership generated back to the club. It's a good way. It's a good thing to use when the club insurance enrollment is happening. So you're kind of doubling down on the money that you're receiving as a club. We normally have a club newsletter that's been put on hold since the staff reduction that happened last year. Laid off 50% of the AHA staff, and then a few other things in there as well. But want to show the love to the clubs, and if you guys ever have any ideas or things that we could work on better, or something new that we could work on, definitely let us know. Always looking to continue to support and adapt and pivot to what you guys need. That's kind of how this whole program of us joining you for your club meetings came about. Any questions before I move on? Guess not.
All right, you can hear me on the live stream now. So I've got a bunch of things to click. So I was going to share a quick story from our perspective to you, being, you referenced the legal issues or the legal aid that the AHA provides for clubs. So in Kansas is fairly regressive when it comes to alcohol laws, compared to other states around us, like Colorado, for example. Um, we didn't have like alcohol by the drink until 1989. We didn't have happy hour until 2015. I believe is the right number. So in 2013, one of our longtime members, who's since moved away to another organization, he got into his head that why can't I take a 6-pack of beer that I made in my house to my friend's house to watch football? And because the idea that you must, you brew beer in your home, you can only share it to your family in your home, and that's the extent of the what Kansas had available to us legally. So he contacted the HA. He worked with our local Lee, who's in this call. She works with the State House, and she connected us with Mr. Bradley, who's the sort of lobbyist for, is he AH Brewers Association? Lee, you can shake your head. Or
Kansas Craft Beer Association.
Kansas Craft Beer Association. So yeah, he helped us draft sort of legislation to help to allow, basically I can carry a 6-pack to my friend's house and he can drink it, or my friend can come to my house and drink that 6-pack either. So we got that kind of started with Bill, and AHA stepped in, and I think there's like a bulletin process where you guys send out a lot of like a mass email to people in the state, like, hey, contact your state representatives for this thing that's happening. And I think between the two of those resources, if you're listening to the live stream, this is why paying your HA dues in Kansas helps to the club, or to any club in Kansas, but paying your HA dues and becoming a member in Kansas helps. And because of the HA, like John said, with the legal sort of help, and it doesn't need to be HA directed. If you have an idea, HA can help.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and thanks for that story, Frank. I do remember learning about that as I came onto the HA, and if we're not in the, as a national organization, it's not, puts us in a weird position if we like actively are pursuing something. But what we really can do is be a catalyst for you if you have an issue that you'd like to bring up. We can put you in touch with all sorts of people in our network, since we work with the professional division as well. We have a massive database of homebrewers in the state. Whether you're a member or not, you're still going to get, a call out. It's still going to help you as a homebrewer, whether you're part of our association or not. And what it really, like, it's grassroots efforts that we can help with, and then expertise as well as on framing language and legislation, and having in-house counsel here at the Brewers Association review that, and having this kind of like vast access of knowledge for all of you to tap into. So each state's different. Each state's going to have its own issues, and we're here to help all 50 of them. Sweet. Any other questions or comments before I move on? Seems like we're good. Cool. All right, judge training and sensory. I don't know, and I should have got this information before I started. What is, I guess, like a big question to ask, and I put some just kind of like thoughts in here, like a way to just kind of get started with it is homebrewing a lot, which if you're in you're part of a club already, and everyone on this call obviously enjoys homebrewing and being part of the club and the community at large. So homebrewing a lot helps you get started with just style identification and understanding, what ingredients do what. And then, taking that and then putting it into this official mechanism that's a competition. At first can seem a little daunting, and I think it's probably a wide variety of competition experience, whether you're an entrant, judge, or steward on this call. But starting off, stewarding is great because it's low barrier to entry, and it kind of gets you an idea on how an overall competition functions. And then from there, really diving into that training material that's put out by specific organizations like the Beer Judge Certification Program, the Cicerone Program. There are a variety of people who have put programs together on YouTube. It's super helpful and kind of dive into a specific topic that you could be wanting to work on. And then once you kind of go through that, you can start to become officially certified by these organizations like the Cicerone organization or the BJ or the Beer Judge Certification Program through an entrance exam, which is multiple choice usually. And then, you know, you want to be in contact with your BJCP regional representative that's assigned to your region to work out trainings or an exam set up for a tasting exam, which we can get into later. But really, I guess my question to the club would be like, is there a specific program or goal that you'd like to get from doing judge training or sensory, or are you guys more want to focus more on competition organization for the upcoming competition you'd like to put on? And that can help kind of determine the route that we go here on the rest of the call.
I don't know how many Cicerone people we have, but I do know in the call currently we have at least, seeing that some people wandered in, I think 3 BJCP judges in the call. But I know for at least for myself, I would like to eventually get my BJCP certification. I think there's a couple other folk on that point.
Awesome. And yeah, so you know, it's great that you have judges in the club already that you can tap into of like, what was it like for the entrance exam? What was it like for the tasting exam? What did you find difficult? What did you find easy? What, you know, that is a wealth of knowledge to help everyone else kind of study. Using that BJCP rep in your area can help you as a club set up a training program, whether it's, you know, once a week or once every 2 weeks over an extended period of time on studying for those specific exams to get people certified as judges in the BJCP exam. I would lean towards the BJCP over Cicerone at first, because Cicerone is very, although it does cover beer styles and process, it does not put as much emphasis and focus on judging, while the Cicerone, the BJCP program really focuses on style and judging homebrew to specific styles and how to kind of build your palate and vocabulary and evaluating a beer to make it, to give something back to the person who brewed the beer to make them a better brewer. That's really what your job as a judge. A Cicerone, there is a heavy emphasis on beer and food, which is interesting and really fun, as well as the overall kind of retail side of beer, how to like maintain a draft system, you know, how to serve beer to a customer versus, you know, and that's a little different. And they're not mutually exclusive, but there is a divergence in content that you'd be studying for. So I would definitely focus on the BJCP part to become judges. Cicerone's great to do after that. Cool. So to set up a program, you know, you want to define your goals and then you kind of work in the program on. So does anyone have any questions on that before I move on? And has there been a starting process on the club wanting to set up a program yet, or is it just kind of getting people interested in it and then going into start a program?
A couple years ago, we did, you know, one of the the Siebel off flavor kits, I think it was, and worked with that. It may not have been that kit, but it was something similar to that type of setup. But I think we've talked about doing another type of setup, you know, do that again to kind of get newer folks experienced with that.
Yeah, the flavor ones was a lot of fun where, yeah, that was doing the off flavors and learning all about that. Pretty cool.
I think that might have been better part of 3 years now. So it's definitely coming up, due up again.
And one of our members offered tasting seminars and judging sessions for people who wanted to become JCP judges. So we did have that program going informally a couple of years ago. We could see if that we could be done again.
Yeah.
We had, I saw your question. We had, what, maybe 20 judges for competition in 2019, Lee? And
Are
I
you
did
talking
steward
BJCP certified or overall?
just
yeah.
overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had
Ish.
20 people or so, and
That's
then
great.
half of the stewards.
Awesome. All right. So there's a general knowledge of how a competition runs within the group, which is great. I see yeah, I mean, if you guys are in Kansas, the Kansas City site isn't too far away. Awesome. So there's a lot of information out there, which can be overwhelming because you're like, where do I start? And you really want to kind of define the goals. So whether it's deepening the understanding of styles, the elements of beer, your palate to different styles, and building vocabulary, getting as many people certified as possible. Those are all different goals, and you can have multiple goals within a program. But that helps you kind of like focus in on how to build out the program, so then you can best serve that group of people who want to become judges. So you create a syllabus, and there's some resources on the BGCP website to do that. And again, really calling in that BGCP rep. I don't know who the rep is in the area, or calling in clubs that maybe have a great representation of judges in their club, and getting them to support the club and setting that up, or and then laying out that schedule and sticking to the schedule, and like holding everyone holds everyone accountable for that. And so, really how a typical class could go, or a course or a study session could go, is like, all right, we're going to be studying German lagers today, and then you pull you pull some money to buy some classic styles, and you start judging through those, and you're practicing on the written score sheets for the BGCP exam, because the tasting exam is 6 beers over 90 minutes of all homebrewed beer. And then you kind of like get a good understanding of all the different types regionally of beer, or however you want to attack that kind of component. And then testing each other along the way. You definitely want to be dedicating a class or two to off flavors, because that is a pretty major component of the BGCP exam. So spending money on those SIBO off flavor kits is important. It sounds like you guys had done that before, and highly recommend doing that at least once, preferably twice is always good. You do it in the beginning of the program. Everyone gets a baseline and understands kind of what they perceive that off flavor as. Not everyone's gonna perceive DMS exactly the same, but if you can provide the vocabulary to the taste of what that person is experiencing, then that is a good job by the program on building that judge's understanding of that particular off flavor. That makes sense. So like there are like very common off flavor. There are very common descriptors of off flavors, but that's not what necessarily everyone gets for that off flavor. And then everyone has a different calibration of that off flavor in beer. So, for example, I have a very high sensitivity to oxidation, but a very low sensitivity to diacetyl. So it helps you understand as a judge your strength and weakness going through that training, and then figuring out other ways that you can identify diacetyl or any other weakness that you have while you're going through your judging process. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Cool. So, and I would say it's about a 12-week, usually like 12-week program is great to set up, and then working with, again, the BGCP representative to set up an exam for your club to take the tasting exam. It's kind of that all. That's like the final. That's the finish line. If you want to go to the next slide, it goes more into the BGCP tasting exam. So you're working through this entire 12-week or however many courses that you'd like to put into the program, and you're learning all the different types of major styles, and then, you know, studying on your own the nuances of sub-styles within each category. You know, you're studying off flavors, you're studying the major types of malt and the different categories of hops and their differences in flavor and aroma, and knowing how it all works together, a history of styles, etc. So you're finally at this point of the tasting exam. So what you do, you report 6 beers, one at a time. You have 15 minutes to fill out a score. You basically have 15 minutes each to fill out a score sheet. You can spend more on one than the other. You got a major thing that is always told to me was make sure that you're filling out every single line on the score sheet. Don't leave any blanks. You will get docked for that. They want you to expand as much knowledge as you can on the beer that you're judging based on the category that you're told. And they do make it a little challenging. They'll, like, for example, one example I had was, it was they told me it was an English barley wine, but really it was an American barley wine. And the major difference there was it's a lot more bitter than an English barley wine. And being able to identify that and explain why it's not two style while you're in the exam, and then being able to identify all the off flavors that you're going to get. Usually they're spiking those, so the perception levels are going to be pretty high while you go through. And I think there were two entries that were spiked in my exam. And so you judge all these beers, and then you have proctors that are also part of the exam. These are high-ranking BGCP. Yeah.
What do you mean by spiked?
So they're putting in the off flavor to the beer. It's not going to be a natural occurring off flavor. So the intensity level of the off flavor will be high enough for a judge to perceive, and won't take you don't have to be a highly skilled judge to necessarily pick up on it. Like, they're going to have the level of that particular compound high.
So it stands out
Yeah.
pretty obviously.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
they
the
basically
sensory
buy a
exam?
Cybele. This is for the tasting exam. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So they'll take like a Cybele kit, and they'll take the oxidation vial, and they'll pour a good amount in, which, for me, makes me gag. So, like, this just happens to be, oh, hey, kitty. That just happens to be like I just have a high sensitivity to it, and you'll learn that sensitivity as you go through the program. What was I going to say? I was going to say something. Oh, so you have proctors that are also judging. And so all the students, all the people taking the tasting exam, filling out score sheets, then you have 3 proctors that are high-ranking BGCP judges that are also judging all these beers, and they're kind of the sliding scale on what, where you need to be falling as a examinee on the tasting exam. So during the grading, the administrator of the exam uses those 3 proctor judges to kind of give a general range of where all the other judges should be falling, right? Because judging at the end of the day is pretty subjective, but that's why we have a style guideline, and try to create as much unbiased as possible during the judging process, to kind of come to a consensus on a particular beer that we're judging. What else would I want to?
Question real quick. Speaking of the
Yeah.
style guideline, do they allow you to reference it during the judging, and do they even tell you what your styles are before you go to the test?
They will not tell you the styles before the test. So you need to have some awareness of, and that's where that program can come in hand, like really comes in handy. It's comparing similar styles to one another is definitely something you want to be doing. So it's like comparing a Belgian Golden Strong to a Belgian Triple, and like what are the differences? Comparing a American barley wine to an English barley wine, comparing I think someone put in here West Coast, like a hazy New England IPA to an American IPA. Identifying those kind of similar styles and making sure that you can differentiate between the two. I can't remember if you're allowed the style guideline or not. I took it 5 years ago and I cannot remember. I feel like you weren't allowed to have
He's
it, but
shaking her head no. She
yeah.
How many years ago was it? Just a few years ago, right? Like 3 or 4 that you got
Like 2.
2 years ago you got officially certified. But yeah, I think that's kind of always been intimidating to me. Like, I know competition judges, they bring the notebook with them. They're organized because we've done a competition twice now. This will be our third coming up, and so we already assigned the judges, like, you're doing stouts and porters and whatever, and so it's intimidating to take that test, knowing that you can get one of any 42 different styles, and
Right.
the absurd number of sub styles available, and just you have to know, and there's no like cheat sheet or anything available to you.
Think of it this way: they're not gonna. They're gonna be doing and I'd say major styles. Like, what does that mean? But they're not gonna. I never, as you talk to judges who have gone through it, they're not throwing extremely nuanced styles at you. The real crux of the exam is to make sure that you know how to differentiate styles, or like what you're judging in front of you. You know how to pick it apart between the 5 different categories of aroma, appearance, flavor, mouthfeel, then your overall impression of it, as well as how that relates to the style that you're judging. I don't remember. The American and English barley wine trick was probably the most like nuanced style that I got in the exam. Like, you get a pale ale usually, or at least that's what I remember getting. You do get some sort of light lager. So it's kind of, and as you go through studying the style guideline, it's not like you got to memorize the entire thing. There are patterns that you can pick up on as you're studying it. And there are resources out there to help you kind of organize things so it doesn't seem like you're just memorizing a 130-page booklet of styles. There are ways that you can like group things together. There are similarities between certain styles that you can help you memorize in an easier way than going through every single one and memorizing all the specs of that style, and then memorizing all of the aroma components and flavor components and appearance components. So there's a way to kind of group things together, and then that way it doesn't seem so overwhelming, and you can kind of group things into fewer categories, if you will. Does that make sense?
I had a quick exam question if we're still doing exam questions.
Yeah.
when you're doing the score sheet, is it the regular BJCP sanctioned score sheet, or is it kind of like one of the modified ones like we do with the National Homebrew Competition or something else, or is it, a short form version, or is it the full Monty?
Full Monty. Make sure your hand is well rested the night before. And as I said, I think I said it earlier, you don't want to leave any blank spaces. So filling up all of the available writing space, making sure that you're filling out all of the little tick boxes and the consensus score and all these all the things that would make a score sheet fully complete is what you are aiming for on all 6 beers. And as you go through the judging, if you go through the program that you put together and everyone's studying over those 12 or however many weeks or months it is, you want to trust your instinct when you're in that exam. You don't want to be in there and overwhelmed by the fact that you're only getting 6 beers and there are all these different styles that you studied. Like, you're going to know a lot more than you probably think you're going to know right now. Once you get to that point, you're going to know a lot. And you're going to be able to tap into a lot of knowledge that spans across a lot of different styles. So you're going to know what American hop profile is. You're going to know what English hop profile is. You're going to know what New World hop profile is. You're going to know the difference between 2-row and Pilsner malt and Munich malt and what specialty malts can do to a beer. And you're going to use all that general data to be able, and then you're going to be pretty familiar with most of the styles in the guideline, and then take the exam and then find out what you score. It does seem daunting, but once you get into it and start the program, it's actually a lot of fun because you're trying all these classic styles that you might pass up on a lot because there's so much great craft beer out there. You're going to be buying a lot of classical styles of beers from a variety of different countries as well. So it's a lot of fun, the whole studying component of it. Any other questions on the tasting exam? It breaks down by your rank is determined by the percentage that you score on the tasting exam. So 90% is a master eligibility, 80% is national, 70 certified, 60 is recognized. Recognized and certified, you do not need to take the written exam, which is completely separate of the tasting exam now. It used to be all one. I didn't intend on going into the written exam because it is primarily used for national and above ranking achievement. And it's something that you would do after the tasting exam. One thing that you do need is 5 experience points from competitions. So you can't just jump into the tasting exam and become certified. You'll be rank pending until you reach those 5 experience points. And that you can acquire those through stewarding or judging, even as an unranked judge. It just, it shows that you are actively participating in in judging, and you want to become a judge and you understand the process of judging beyond the tasting exam.
If anyone wants to brush up on their different hops or whatever, the Homebrew Pro Shop sells 1 ounce packages of hops that you can always smell and use and so forth. And yes, I had to put in a plug for my company. Couldn't resist.
Awesome. Yeah. You can make hop tea. It's a great way to get a profile on hops. Same with malt.
We've gotten a couple of customers lately wanting to make just hop tea because they can't drink a lot of alcohol anymore, but they miss that hop flavor. So they'll make their own hop tea now, just for a nice warm drink.
Nice. Yeah. Same thing with malt. And that really allows you to nail down the flavor profile of, there's so many different things you can do in the studying of this exam that it can make it more hands-on than you just reading a description of a particular ingredient. And that, I've always found that much more interesting and really a better use of retaining information than just reading something.
I had a quick question on the certification testing or whatever. How is that being handled now with COVID? Is that something that can be done virtual, or is that on hold? Maybe you're going to touch that later, but
They are starting to do exams again, and I'm pretty sure they're doing them with very limited capacity. But it is in person. But I think that's going to vary from A, state to state, and B, from administrator to administrator, based on what they want to do and what the state is going to allow them to do. They were on hold for a while, but they have started back up again. It's a really good question.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you want to get, and this is getting more into the nuts and bolts of getting an exam, but there are only so many exams that the BJCP schedules out per month. And so really the first step before you even get a program is just if there isn't an exam already scheduled in the vicinity of where you guys are, get one scheduled, because it's probably going to be far enough out for you to be able to set up your program and go through all the studying and more. Like, it's probably going to be at least 9 to 12 months out. And that's just based on the amount of personnel and the ability for the BJCP to grade things and not overwhelm themselves. A great place to take a tasting exam is at HomebrewCon, but that's only when it's in person. But they do like a big kind of like sign up for the tasting exam at HomebrewCon. Usually like over 100 people are taking it there. So I do know that does happen every June, usually. But as far as local exams, it takes some time to get it on the calendar. I have another slide. It's not in the deck that you have, Ryan, or Frank, rather. It's more of just kind of like what other resources are there that you can access other than just stuff on the BJCP website or Cicerone website. They're primarily participating in competitions, which is difficult right now. And then really just practicing, like printing out score sheets, reading a style guide, reading a particular style guideline for whatever style is in front of you. If you're at, you go buy a 6-pack or pick up something from a brewery and take it home and read the style guideline and then fill out a score sheet judging the beer you have from that style guideline. That's great practice, just so you know how to manage A, your time going through a beer, and B, how to kind of work through judging a beer for the exam. There are also a lot of examples of good score sheets from the BJCP online that you can look at. Gordon Strong has published a lot of his score sheets as examples for people to look at to give you an idea of what they're looking for when you fill one out. And again, just like you want to be remembering, trying to give as much information as you can to the person that brewed the beer that's in front of you. And so you want to be as descriptive as possible in describing the beer by appearance and flavor and aroma, and every little detail matters. And ultimately, at the end of the day, is for you to provide your trained expertise for that brewer in an unbiased environment to go back and allow them to make better beer moving forward, or praise how awesome their beer is and get their recipe, which does happen, as we know. Are there any questions on sensory or judging or anything else really other than that I'm happy to take? Is anyone now intimidated from taking the exam? Okay, that's fair. I was too, but I would say just once you get into judging that, once you get into like practicing with everyone, you're all in it together, which makes it a lot more, which makes it a lot less daunting and honestly pretty enjoyable as you go through that training. And you know, even if you don't pass the first time, you're still gaining a lot of knowledge and learning a lot, and then you can take it again. I failed the first time, just so you're all aware. Well, I didn't fail. I didn't get the score I wanted, so I took it again.
At my company, if you make less than a 92, it's failing. So yeah, no worries.
There you go. Yeah. Wait, why 92?
We're on a government contract, and so they want a certain level of
Oh,
expertise in each department. And so I don't know why 92 is. It has to be above a 90. Everyone has to get an A for our contract.
okay. Well, you don't need to get that for this exam.
That's good to know.
Yeah. I mean, really, what you're really aiming for, if you want people to become certified, and that's like very like, so that's that. Once you become certified, that's how a lot of competition organizers filter the judge list that they get, and it puts you kind of in this group that is marketed to help come judge um, competitions. So hitting that 70% on the tasting exam is a good goal for any program and any person taking it. If you get less, that's still okay. Recognize it's still good. And you know, if you get better than that, if you hit 80, you're eligible for national ranking, and you got to take the written exam, which again is a whole separate beast that requires a lot more studying. It's a lot of essays. And then the Cicerone exam, you know, I wanted to briefly touch on that. That does have a tasting component to it. It's 16 different tastings, not all in as one type. So there, you know, there are four components in that of 4 samples. So it's, I'm not going to remember all of them, but it's 4 this or that style, 4 off flavor, 4 I'm going to forget. I forget. But it's all in the syllabus on that, but it's not, again, that Cicerone exam is very much focused on more than just judging beer. It's focused on process and things like glassware and things like serving beer to a customer and beer and food pairing, and their essays on whether it's the brewing process or off flavors, or how would you pair X style with Y dish or something like that. A lot of fill in the blank. It's a full, the level 2 Cicerone exam is a full day affair, or most of a full day. The level 1 is just an entrance exam, so it's multiple choice that you take online. But I would start with the BJCP exam first before even approaching the Cicerone studying.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So once you get certified, do you, like a driver's license, have to renew it?
You do not. But you can get continuing education points. The whole idea of acquiring points as a judge allows you to go up in ranking once you retest. So say you become certified. You're like, great, now I can judge. I'm a certified judge. I can judge competitions. People are going to want me to come judge the competitions. You have to get a certain amount of points to become a national judge. You can't just score 80% and pass the written exam with 80%. You have to have 20 experience points as well. So it does keep spurring you to continue to judge. And even if you don't want to, you're going to get continuously hit up to judge if you become certified. So yeah, you do not need to re-up your certification though.
And even before you start judging, you can learn things from helping other people study or even stewarding. I stewarded for our last competition and I learned a lot.
Judging as a non-ranked judge was maybe one of the most useful things I did in my training, because when you're unranked, a judge coordinator is like, all right, this person's unranked. I have to put them with the highest ranking judge because I don't know anything about this person's ability to judge or their training or their whatever it may be. So you usually get paired up with like a really experienced judge, like a national or a grandmaster judge. And in those situations, you can really learn a lot from that judge, because you can just usually they're very open and willing to tell you how they go through judging an entry and differentiating between style, and then describing maybe an off flavor that you get in one of the beers of your flight. And it's just I've always found that extremely valuable in my early stages of judging. I don't get to do that anymore because now I am ranked. So then now I get paired up and I get to reciprocate that, which is cool. But that is extremely valuable, or I found it extremely valuable as a new judge, going to judge competitions once those come back in person. Pretty easy. You just email, I think it's David Houseman. You email the BGCP, you tell them what competitions you've been a part of and what you did and how many days you worked, and they will retroactively give you points into your profile if they haven't already. You don't need a BGCP profile to have points being logged. Like they kind of keep track of that based on email. But they are very easy to work with on retroactively giving you points from experience that you have in competitions. Good question. Got to get those 5 points. I love beer, so I definitely am drinking. I don't have one in front of me right now, but my favorite beer, 2 styles, dark mild and Munich Helles. I do love a really high alcohol, tasty winter seasonal as well in the winter. But those first 2 are the ones that I like to brew at home, and the ones I like to drink every day and put on tap at my house. I don't have anything on tap right now because I've moved to Idaho, on the west side of the Tetons from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and all my stuff is still in Colorado. So once I get it up here, I'm going to be able to brew those wonderful beer styles that I can just have lots of in the confinement of my own house.
Okay, I think there are no more questions. Thank you very much, John,
Yeah.
for attending our meeting and answering our questions and providing this information.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. And if you guys ever have any questions specific to setting anything up or judging in general, that's my contact information right there. Feel free to email or call me. Email is sometimes better, but if it's urgent, you can call me. And yeah, thanks for having me on. Hopefully you guys got to take away something from me talking.
I think our new people learn stuff, which is
Sweet.
awesome.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
All right, Ryan, are we good for the tasting?
We are locked and loaded for the tasting. This is the moment. If you haven't gone to grab your beers, we'll give you a minute. Go grab your beers. John, if you're here for another minute or two, give you a quick backstory. We had, since the Bell's Two Hearted's one of the BJCP American IPA reference beers, we had 6 members volunteer to brew clones of it because it's published, the clone recipes published in the AHA recipes guide there. And we did 3 of them. We tasted in January, and tonight we're getting ready to taste our final 3 and kind of work through some basic, not a full sensory thing, but at least walk them through some of the score sheet fill-ins. Like
Yeah, that's awesome.
so.
Honestly, that's one of my favorite. That is my favorite IPA. I'll just say it. It was the first one I had, and I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it obviously was easy to get. And Pittsburgh doesn't have the most robust beer scene. I mean, it's got Yingling, which is just called lager. But yes, Too Hard is great. This is cool.
So
who how many people on the call did the brewing?
Let's see. I think we have all 3 of tonight's brewers are here. I'm trying to see if we have all 3 of the first night's brewers. So we have at least 1, 2. Yeah, I think all 6 of us are here. So
Nice, just straight Centennial hops, right?
yeah, and that's kind of part of what got kicked us off. Is one of the people who brewed also had a few pounds spare, so they graciously volunteered all those hops.
That is very gracious of them.
We even did the COVID safe way. So one of our current vice president, Josh, he amassed all the ingredients, grew up a bunch of yeast for everybody, and then parsed it out into individual pieces. And so everybody picked up the same ingredients from one source, the same hops from one source, and the same yeast from one source. So it comes down to how each individual brewer almost manages their equipment versus
yeah, I was going to say, this is really cool. So. Really cool experiment on process and like how process there's such variance on process. This is cool.
And I know I've been really surprised how much difference we've seen between the first 3. I expect to see similar differences tonight.
Yeah, everything from just like clarity to aroma. This is cool. I wish I had the 3.
Yeah, if you were a little closer, we still have spare packs. But I'm not trying to get one to Wyoming quick enough.
Yeah, that's okay.
Or Idaho, I guess now.
It's a pain to get anything up here, shipping wise.
But it is gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. Beautiful.
Homebrew Pro Shop does ship. Sorry, I need to stop that, don't I?
All right. It looks like everybody's sitting back in their chair at this point. So I will assume you have all gathered your bottles. Let's see. Oh, yep. Thanks for clicking the slide. I forgot about this one. So here is all of our club members who brewed. I mean, while we told you last week's, I'll hope your memory faded, and we'll tell you afterwards who the other 3 for tonight were. So, but there's our full list of folks. And if you have a link, I already actually linked the score sheet. So if you wanted to kick out a couple BJCP sheets, that way you could try to fill it out along, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, you can always bring it up on your computer, but we will walk you through using the AHA slides. So you don't need it. You can just follow through with your phone on the AHA slides. So let's see, Frank, next slide. I think that might be the kick in. All right, let me get the presentation started. And then let me also grab a screen share button. There we go. Oh, wait, am I on the right? All right. Oh, that's not the right button. All right. Let's see. Okay. There we go. So the code is up at the top. It was also on that last slide. Frank, if you can you put it in the chat for people? Okay. And it looks like we got 2 in so far, but up 3. So go ahead and get your phone up or your other screen going there.
We're on question number 4 to start. Did you do that on purpose?
Beer number 4.
Oh.
And that
okay,
is where we are.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We're taking off from last week. I was
Good question.
I was
Because
confused.
obviously I have fumbled that many a time, so that's a legit question. All right, looks like I've got 6 in. I'm gonna let people get in just for a minute longer, but then we are gonna start moving forward, but you can join at any time. But yeah, go ahead and get that bottle opener handy and get your beer ready. Ideally, have a fresh glass to pour this into.
I got 3 different
Sorry,
glasses.
started. I hope that's
So I
cool.
can tell them apart.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and crack number 4 here. I think Josh and Lee, you're ready too as well. I lost my faces on here. Let me see if I can. There we go. I'm having too many screens to go. All right. So crack it, pour it. You know, when you cracked it, what kind of, did you get a good hiss? Was it quiet? How was the carbonation level, fill level? You know, before you pour it.
Ryan, you might remind everybody to pour about half of the bottle because there is some sediment in some of these. And so you will, you know, if you pour the whole bottle or a majority of the bottle, you might end up, you know, not getting a true test comparison.
So, and now the first question is up, and that is on aroma. So when you're smelling your glass, what kind of characteristics are you getting out of it? You know, what malt items? You know, we've shared before some of the common ones, but just what are you getting when you're thinking of malt? For the hops, I'm seeing some hop featured words up. Yeast
I'm
ester.
glad I know that.
While this is an IPA, certain yeasts we do know, like Hefes, will have strong banana esters. Those are what we're talking about when we're talking about yeast esters. So elements that don't belong to the malt or the hops, you know, what other things are we getting on there? All right, and I'm looking, I have cheated and I have my own notes from prejudging one of these, so I'm quick getting my bearing on this one. And actually, I'm getting, interestingly enough, one of the things I listed is not coming back this time. So, which is a positive because it was a flaw item, so.
I just know it's pretty good. That's all I know.
All right, we've got a lot of good comments there. So for hops, I'm seeing some grapefruit. Let's see. Oh, the word malt thing moves fast. Pine. Seeing some grassiness. Somebody noted low carbonation, huh? I'm getting pretty aggressive bubbling in mine. But then let's go ahead and move on to the appearance category. I know people are getting like, all right, I'm gonna drink this beer.
She's a bit flat there, Ryan.
Okay. Appearance. So when we look through the beer, look at the beer, what are you seeing when it comes to color? We know the SRM color chart. So are you seeing, what would you describe that as? The clarity itself. I can actually see through the other side of this beer pretty good. Maybe
I'm reading the screen.
That's really clear. And
I see some bubbles now.
Yeah, and I poured this beer earlier before I started running my mouth, and you know, it's been a while here. If you look, I've still got a pretty good head retention, so that's pretty good on it. You know, it's a moderate head. It didn't puff up half up the glass, but it's lasting, it's lingering, and it's a kind of an off-white head color. So we're getting some words there on there. I'm going to fill out a couple word chart things myself here for a second.
I chose the wrong glass.
That can happen.
I think the beer club has plenty of extra glasses. Just a few.
Well, I chose 3 different glasses so I could tell them all apart.
There you go. All right, so looks like we see a lot of clean, clear. Somebody has one that's murky, interestingly enough. I wonder if it got shook up. Because mine does have some sediment in the bottom, but the pour we had doing a half pour, I got all clear beer. And also no head. So it just shows how much variation you can have just because you're individually bottling all these. The same beer may not yield 36 identical beers. You might have either, if you used a counter pressure filler, let off some pressure, or the bottle wasn't perfectly clean, or, you know, there's individual variance to that. All right.
Ryan?
Yeah.
Question?
Yeah.
As I'm watching all of the words pop up on the screen that are color coded, are the colors connected to one person?
They are not, to my knowledge.
Okay.
I believe it is truly random. I'd have to go, let me go cheat and look back on my answers. No, they are definitely not individualized.
Okay. The only reason I ask is it would be interesting to sort of track qualities that each person is getting. It still doesn't identify who they are.
Yeah.
But if somebody's got the murky bottle, then chances are their flavor profile might be a bit different than everybody else's.
Absolutely. And speaking of notes, someone had a good note on delicate lacing. So that is one of the aspects to appearance there you're looking at.
Hey, Ryan, are we comparing this to Two Hearted?
Generally, you can have a reference to Hearted handy if you'd like.
Yeah, I've got both. It's just
Okay.
interesting to compare the two as I go.
Absolutely. And when we did the exercise Monday night to practice for this, we had all three side by side there, and there isn't just even the three home brews, despite picking up the exact same grain and ingredients, still ended up with three moderately different looking beers from just color standpoint alone.
I poured all three samples at the same time, and they all still have a bit of head on them. The last one has bigger bubbles than some of the other ones.
Well, I know you all have been tasting it, so let's go ahead and start talking about flavor here.
One thing I'll point out that Dale, if you weren't participating in last month's tasting, so we kind of identified that all three of last month's beers had very specific yeast character that was similar, and dissimilar from Bell's. Because we didn't exactly
yeah, I was
use...
in on.
Okay, yeah, we didn't
I was
exactly
in on
use the
last.
yeast that they call out because we didn't have access or something.
So you can buy it online. We just went ahead and the AHA recipe gives a more generic yeast option, and so we went with that option, which, if I recall, was the Imperial one that was on there. But Josh might be able to chime in. I bought it, but I frankly don't remember at this. No, was it WLP001? That might have been what it was.
I think so.
Okay. So theoretically, everyone moved up WLP001. All right. And I moved on to the flavor. And so you're tasting it, wash it around your mouth for a minute. Don't just drink it. Make sure you pick up a lot of stuff there.
I get sweet pine.
I can see that. You can submit multiple times, so feel free to throw an answer in there. Even if you don't have three answers, I kind of just set up the blanks to allow aggressive commenting. So feel free to throw those words out there. We do save these word clouds, so they will be in the meeting minute notes. They can be out there on the. All right. So we're seeing somebody's got some sweet aftertaste. That might be some those more complex malt character items. We're seeing some lightly malty breadiness. I'm trying to look for other grain flavors. Very sweet. So there's definitely, I'd love to know the finishing gravity on this one. Looks like we got some bitterness. I see bitterness lingers to balanced bitterness to as far as hopless, which is interesting because that's pretty much the full gamut we just had there. So that's that's a little bit of variation between folks. Looks like I got some tropical flavors. Seeing clean. And I get a mild hop bitterness, maybe a slight citrus aspect. I don't know if Lee or Josh had your notes handy, or if they're still matching. For me, I've had a couple things. The second bottle, again, because I said the bottles do vary since you're individually bottling. I feel like Monday's bottle for me was slightly different than the one I'm drinking now. They're both good, but they did. I'm getting not all of my notes match the current beer I'm having at this point.
Mine are pretty similar. The first thing I put down was grapefruit hoppy, which I think is the dominant flavor I'm getting. There is some maltiness in there. Light malty breadiness is what I said. Definitely has some bitterness. I think it tastes pretty close to Bell's Two Hearted.
Yeah.
Del, you can tell us that since you got them side by side, what you're thinking.
I'm sorry, you asked me?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty close. I mean, how do you do a clone that's going to taste exactly like the beer you're shooting for? That's a pretty high bar to set. But I would say I would say tasting them side by side, that's a pretty comparable beer, you know, as far as it goes.
Comparing them side by side, I think the Bell's is pinier, is the only word I can get. But otherwise, it's just, you know, oh, that one's got a little more pine to it.
It's not far off, and I agree with you, John.
I feel like it's a little, Bell's is actually just a little maltier in the aroma.
Yeah, I would say whoever made this one did a pretty fine job of
Excellent
pairing
job.
All right. Well,
I'd like to chime in as somebody who's not tasting either of them, that if somebody can get in the neighborhood of being comparable, then it's debatable that you could actually be better than one of the best beers in the country.
Hey, Barry, if you do want the chance to taste these after, obviously the meeting's ongoing, but we do have additional 6-packs available, 2, I think, at Josh's, 2 at Clint's house. So you do have options.
Great. I would love to be part of this.
And anyone else in the call who, I think everybody else I'm looking has been involved and had some. So, but if you don't have one, like I said, we still got 2 at Josh's, 2 at Clint's, and I out here in Shawnee have 1 as well. So depending on where you are, we have pickup options.
Okay, well, I know where Clint lives, so Clint, I might be knocking at your door, but I'll let you know when I come.
Barry is also in the cool neighborhood.
All right. So while we still have some beer left in our glasses, because I know people are probably getting down there, let's talk mouthfeel. So, you know, taste covers what your taste buds get, but you actually, you know, the feeling and persistence of some of these sensations in your mouth. So we talked about carbonation when we were talking about, let's see, appearance, I believe, or no, somebody mentioned it at some earlier point. But here's another chance to talk about carbonation. When you drink it, do you have a lingering warmth? You know, or you get an astringency, that bitterness? What other palate sensations? Creaminess, elements to the body. Obviously, the more complex malts you're going to have, depending on your mashing profile, a more complex body.
I think it's a little on the creamy side.
Yeah, and you know, I do keep seeing carbonation variants and body variants between people. So I do, well, not the carbonation could very much be just a bottling differentiation, you know. Again, when you're individually bottling, stuff happens. Not the factory line identicalness.
As a side note, I'm getting a lot more tropical and actually mango coming out a little bit as it warms up. I don't know if anybody else is.
Yep.
It's delicious.
All right, so it looks like trying to quick compare. So we had 36 responses, 21, 33. So we're hitting the, you know, I'm just trying to get plenty of response on all of them. But it looks like we got lots.
Bitterness definitely lessened as the beer warmed up.
And I did strategically in the last 10 or so minutes go get my bottles preset out, so I'd be getting some of that warm up. It wasn't so fridge cold and quiet of a sensation.
Mine have been sitting out since the beginning of the meeting.
Even better. Well, if you have multiple glasses, I do recommend grabbing a couple, because rather than chug your current beer, you don't want to overwhelm your taste buds, especially when we're going through hoppy beer after hoppy beer. But let's go ahead and prepare and go for beer number 5 if we can, just in the interest of keeping time moving, because we can always circle back to beers 4, 5, 6, especially once we've got them all open. That way it's a little easier to kind of talk about them all side by side. But let's work on number 5 here. So we're going to start with the 5 notes.
Hey, can I interrupt?
Absolutely.
Well, good. You
Oh, I lost you.
Then you've confirmed that I don't have to use my dorky Zoom headphones.
Ah, okay. Yeah, no, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Well, you better watch out, because Monday may be yelling and interrupting me.
All right. So get ready to open beer number 5. Again, we're just like with judging, you observe your fill level. Is it appropriately filled? Is it to the top of the cap? Is it only half full bottle? When you go to crack the bottle, listen for that carbonation pop. Let's see if I can get it on my microphone. There we go. Some beer ASMR there. So I'm going to pour out, like Josh said, about half a bottle. Again, retain some of that just in case it is loaded with stuff in the bottom. And again, when I'm looking at this, we're on aroma. Hold on. I'm jumping the gun. You know, I'm not. Let's see, aroma. All right. So we're getting lots of aroma terms here. Let's see, so that's interesting. I'm going to grab, I lost my AHA slides thing. Okay, there we go. You know, I'm seeing this one maybe has a little less hop coming through. Faint hops, I see light hops, light scent, but we do get some people perceiving some of that grapefruit. I saw piney, there we go. Looking for some of those other ones.
I'm curious, whoever said the cap was lightly sealed, if they got a taller bottle or a shorter bottle version of this.
Yeah, whoever's comment that was, feel free to.
Short bottle, and it's still carbonated well.
Okay.
Okay.
But when I hit the bottle opener on it, man, it just popped right off. It's like, whoa, it wants to leave.
Okay.
All right.
Boy, I'm really surprised at the wide range of aromas. I'm getting nothing but butter on mine. And
definitely a butter nose.
Maybe that speaks to, as he spoke earlier, it's like we all have different things we perceive better. But
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting nothing like the last one.
I agree. I smell no hops on this one.
All right, I'm going to move to appearance here. So let's talk some characteristics of color, clarity, head. Now, let's see, this one's probably so looks like clarity's pretty strong on this one. Though I do see a hazy comment. That could just be some protein chill haze, you know. Interesting to see as your beer number 5 whoever said that warms up, if you have more in the bottle, if it gets clearer as it goes, or if that's a persistent fact to it.
Yeah, James and I are splitting the bottle, and I got the second half. His is a little bit clearer, and he poured first.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I got the first last time. It's marriage.
Yeah, taking turns.
Well, now that I figured I don't have to use my dorky headphones, I can use my screen a little bit better to say this one appears to be a little darker. The bubbles are about the same. It definitely has a more buttery aroma.
Okay. All right, we've got
I had a tall bottle.
Is everybody pouring in the same shaped glass for all 3 of your samples?
Yes, all of mine are Brewers Guild pints.
So
No.
I've got this assortment of collection over the years, and I'm not. And the head retention on number 5, which is this one here I'm holding, is much better, but it's a narrower glass. So is that kind of a proof that a narrow glass might keep head longer, or is that not?
You know, it could be a experiment worth repeating.
Yeah, I'm gonna chime in because we tasted these a couple days ago and filled out a score sheet. And on my score sheet a few days ago, like I remember this one being like huge head that lasted forever. And I'm
That's my
using the
gut.
same shaker glass that I use. I mean, I washed it, but shaker glass style from a few days ago, and I'm not getting the same head retention tonight as I got a few days ago, which I feel like would be more variable of bottling. But I like where you're going with this, Dale, and we should definitely further experiment.
And interestingly enough, on Lee's note of Monday versus tonight, beer number 4 for me Monday, I said had a low head retention, and beer number 5, I said had, where was it at? Strong head retention. I can tell you this, tonight I have seen the exact opposite effect.
Yeah, weird, because this is 5 and mine is just like it's an everlasting head.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a foamer, but it was just
There it is.
It's solid.
Yeah, I'm with you, Brian. They kind of flip flop, Brian. The first one had great head retention. The second one,
When we were
not so
looking at
much.
glasses for the store, all I heard about the different shapes of glasses was the aroma you could get by the shape of the glasses. So I'm with Dale. I'd like to experiment with the head retention, have maybe one bottle and split it between as many bottles as we physically could and see if the head retention, because all I've ever heard about the different shapes of glasses is how much aroma you can smell with beer or wine, in fact. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not to sound too judgy on anybody who's doing the drinking, because I'm not, but doesn't a lot of head retention have to do with the I hate to say the word cleanliness of the glass?
No, it's absolutely true. If you get a lot of soap residues and or small mineral buildup on your glass, all those are nucleation sites, which cause the carbonation to run away faster and everything else. And whatever chemicals, if it's a soap residue, could easily kill the head really fast.
Right. Yeah, if you're really good at cleaning your glasses, but they didn't get rinsed well enough, then all of a sudden you think it's the beer's fault.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're
We'll
saying
blame Star Sam.
So you're saying I did a good job with my dishwasher. I'll tell Lisa that because, you know, as many great qualities as my wife has, loading a dishwasher, she gets an F every goddamn time. And so I know that the position I put my glasses in the dishwasher, if she's listening, you know, added to the head retention is what I'm getting.
So again, I'm not being judgy. I'm just being a conscientious observer.
Yeah, there was actually an article. I can't remember if it was Brad from Beersmith or maybe it was Brew Your Own had an article just recently about, you know, washing, you know, don't wash your beer glasses with your, you know, regular, you know, dishwasher detergents. You know, there's clean and then there's beer clean, you know, in order to get the retentions and the aromas and all that. So
I agree, Steve. This glass that I have here, it's the only kind of glass I have in my whole house. Everything else does not have a handle like this. I never put this in the dishwasher. And the reason I don't is because I did once and it fucked up everything. I drank out of it for a while.
If you want to be sensitive about not calling someone's glassware clean, but it is clean, it's just not beer clean, you could say the glass is prepared correctly. Like you could call it a prepared glass, like prepared for beer, as opposed to beer clean versus not clean.
Frank, you're always the diplomat.
Seriously?
Back in the day, getting trained to.
Charlie Bamforth talks about this a lot, about super clean glasses. He's the guy from, you know, he was the taste sensory guy from Bass, went to UC Davis and also is doing the same gig at Sierra Nevada. He talks about super clean glass because he is like the Pope of foam is what his little handle is. What I'm getting at is there is a seminar that's coming up next Thursday. I don't know if anybody has seen that, but it's a Charlie Bamforth thing. And I will try and share a link tomorrow if anybody else is interested.
Oh yeah, very much post that.
I mean, he's huge on giving great sarcasm and critique of what's gone in American politics, but where he's highly valued is in the beer stuff. And there are lots of podcasts either on Beersmith and or on the Brewcasters and that with Charlie in there, and it's a huge amount of information.
Back in the day, and take for this with a grain of salt, because it was Coors that taught me to clean glasses. And they used a motorized brush system with the 5 brushes in the sink. And they always did a 3-sink system on that. They were using something similar to PBW in the first sink with the brushes. You clean the glass. And the second sink was just hot, clear water to rinse that. And the last one was a sanitizer. I don't think it was Star San, but it was something similar. And then you let it air dry. And I think it really makes a difference. You know, what you're doing is that surfactant in the PBW gets the crap out of there. You rinse that, and then that Star San flushes any crud that's left on the glass right down the drain.
Yeah, I can confirm that's still the way that's done at this point. And the last one is typically a quat sanitizer. So, but otherwise, that was still very factual. Of the 3 restaurants and bars I worked in, every one of them had the spinning motor 5-point dishwasher hand dishwasher you mentioned, and 3-sink.
So I'm wondering if Barry and Clint, if you remember, for many, many months, if not years, Dempsey's glasses tasted like sanitizer with their beer.
Tasted like ass, yeah.
Yeah.
Does ass taste like sanitizer? Or does sanitizer taste like ass?
I'm gonna
tasted like dirty dish rag is what it tasted like.
Yes, which I don't know tastes like ass, but people use that comment so many times, and I'm like,
Chuck, let's wait for your opinions on what that particular aspect tastes like till after the meeting stream ends. All right.
Okay, so this meeting
like copper
stream
pennies.
right here that we're talking about with
Tastes like a salad.
Rotating brushes and the sanitizers. I've been using that since I was like 15, working in a bar in a bowling alley, and it's still the same thing.
We got a lot of flavor notes, but people are obviously getting distracted. So let's move on to mouthfeel here. Let's talk beer number 5, mouthfeel. You still got a little, hopefully, in your glass. You haven't drank it all this whole time. So let's see some of your notes on this.
It's a little clearer than the last.
On the flavor, I just can't get past the butter. I mean, I don't know if I'm hypersensitive that usually, but I can't taste anything else but that on that one.
It's still there.
I'd say I have it faintly, but I do know I am certain other things I am much stronger pickup. That's not one I have a really strong pickup on.
I that's the one thing, that's my superpower. I can taste the butter.
Lynette says, yep.
Well, I hope you like butter, but I did taste other things on it. I thought it was decent, but yeah, the aroma with the butter sort of contributes to the flavor of butter. Once you smell the butter, it's definitely there, but I could taste a few other things. I didn't think it wasn't bad to me, but I guess I like butter.
Question, for those of you tasting butter, are you getting like slickness with the mouthfeel? Because that's another way to detect diacetyl.
Very slightly, but yeah, I'm also picking it up.
I'd say a bit, yes.
I'd say it's pretty small though.
Paul has decided he does not like Bell's Two Hearted.
Can we kick him out of the group?
No,
we cannot.
one thing that I did to help Paul, he's my neighbor and he has gotten into this recently in the last year, is when I dropped him off his 6-pack, I also dropped him off some bells. So he is actually judging similar to Dale, where he's got glass to glass.
It's not bad. It's just not my style. So
That's fair. That's totally okay.
That's what I say about sours.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean,
I'd
everybody's
say
got
the
their
only
likes
thing
and
is
dislikes. It's yeah.
Yeah, but there's
Bell's Too Hearted is it's one of the examples of the style. It's, you know, with at least a few years ago, they listed 5 or 6 examples, and Bell's Too Hearted is right there. In fact, one of the times when I took the BJCP tasting, we had Bell's Too Hearted that was a couple weeks old. So I mean, it's really a prototypical IPA. I know they're a lot different now. I mean, you can like it or not like it, but I mean, it's.
And Chris, it's still listed, and that was part of our motivation for brewing this, was that it was the style defining, you know, one of the examples, along with the fact that the recipe was freely published at a homebrew scale. So that was the secondary motivator.
Yeah.
What's the next?
I do think, as an observer again, that it's a good idea to acknowledge subjective and objective opinions on any kind of beer.
Yeah.
Like if you're sitting down to drink stouts and you say right up front, you know, stouts they're not my favorite beer. Or like even to say I don't like them, but I'm going to try to judge it. It's almost like maybe the person who doesn't like it theoretically could be a better judge, because they're not going to be biased towards anything because they don't like any of it. And if they can actually focus on the qualities that a beer is supposed to have and say, yeah, it's there, I don't like it, but it's there, then that aspect of subjective and objective, I think, should be a more prominent part of a conversation.
And for me, that's very true. I happen to be a big IPA nut. And obviously with homebrew competitions, we all turn in beers that sometimes miss the mark or have an issue or whatever. So for me, one, you win any category, you have like those 2 beers you always think of, or one beer that's like, oh, IPA, I always want it to taste like X. So it makes it harder to judge, for me at least, a category. But at the same time, too, the category gets spoiled anytime I have something really disastrous. My brain associates that with that beer, you know, it kind of taints it for me. So my favorite thing when I judge a contest is to get categories I never drink.
Like, yeah, and I think that's a great approach, Ryan, is that you're going to not have that bias built in, other than this. Everybody's got some subjectivity about all of this stuff. And so the hard part is letting it go and to say, does this fit the description? And that's why I thought the presentation today by the guy was good, because it's like, you know, let's identify flaws, know what they taste like, so that when you taste them, you know, like, oh yeah, I don't like this beer, but it has this profile and it's not supposed to have this profile. And I think that's very important, because we can all like what we like, and that's fine, and rave about it all we want. But when it comes to judging, that's a completely different game.
Speaking of judging, if you have beer number 6 handy, let's get ready to judge that one. I'm going to go ahead and roll the slide over for the next one. Again, with the other 2, start with your bottle inspection. You know, is it appropriately sized fill? Capped well. We had somebody commenting on the previous beer's capping. And then when you get ready to remove it, listen for that carbonation level.
One of the things I'll say on that is the fill level has changed so much over time. Sometimes people will naturally carbonate beers. A lot of us will do a counter pressure filler. So, you know, I found out that a lot of my beers that I was turning in for competition were counter pressure filled, and they were up to the top. And people would come back with, you know, oh, it's over full or under full. But I don't know. That's almost like a give. Those are just points that I can give away. unless something's completely off and crazy. Those are just gimme points. You just keep those away.
I think the only time I've really removed them is when someone had like a half full, like a true, a crazy underfilled bottle, not a, it's 2 thumbs or 3 thumbs down the bottle. Is there half the beer supposed to be in there?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that is absolutely free points to that aspect.
But that's not a judged, that's an appearance, not even the appearance. That's before you actually get into your numbers in any kind of a judging sheet.
On NHC, I believe there is actually points under there. I know on the regular BJCP sheet there's not, but correct me if I'm wrong, someone else that's done NHC with me, I thought they did award 3 points related to bottling. No, Lee is correcting me, then wrong.
Is this
No, it's just a check mark on the sheet.
Yeah, it's a check mark on the sheet.
And I thought the old NHC form had it.
But it has no points.
Okay. So I'm
I
crazy.
mean, for every beer I've ever entered in the sheets since what, 2011, 10, 1, it never has been a point value thing.
Yeah.
It's all, if it is an underfill, or then they go, it's an overfill, and that's all you get. But it doesn't get into the ranking until the next level down, which is your appearance, I do believe.
Yep. Speaking of
Who said apple?
I'd see green apple on there and slight apple, and apple peel. So we actually have 3
And
different
apple.
definitions of apple.
I got a little apple at the very beginning, and I didn't mark it down until I started seeing everybody else say it. I thought I was imagining it.
This one
I got a
smells
lot of
very different from the other 2, and apple is exactly it.
a lot of green apple.
I get a lot
this
of
is
yeasty
definitely different than the
breadiness
last one.
going on. It's not unpleasant at all. I don't mind the aroma at all.
All right, looks like we got.
I got green apple.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Frank.
I was talking too much and now I'm drinking. I got green apple.
Good, we have 10 minutes, guys.
I think the smell's better than the taste, honestly.
I'm gonna move on to appearance here. So let's work on the appearance stuff. What colors are you getting? Clarity.
Clarity.
Carbonation.
It still has some head to it, a little bit, with larger bubbles, but it's still there.
With some shaking, yes.
Mine's been shaking out since the beginning.
I don't know if anybody else is having the issue, but I've had to submit my comments on AHA slides like 3 times sometimes to get it to actually go. So feel free to check that your stuff's getting on there.
You're only getting verbal from me.
What else is there?
Ooh.
Them's fighting
Miss
words.
Lynette, I felt the same thing.
Dang.
So we've got some comments come in though. I see some let's see. Okay, hold on.
This is why I put Wendy on mute.
Okay. So I see some slight haze to fairly clear. Somebody even said cloudy. Seeing colors ranging from light straw to, and the word thing just moved. I saw an amber, thought. Bright gold, there's that. Anywhere from persistent white head to no head retention. So there's obviously quite the gamut here. And again, that could return to our comments on glassware, both glassware cleanliness and or geometry.
I think that compares to Two Hearted about as closely on color as of the 3.
Okay.
It's grassy though.
All right, since we've already gotten aroma and appearance, let's move our way into flavor.
Flavor Town.
Flavor Town.
It's got a slightly bitter finish compared to the other ones, especially being basically room temperature at this point. For me.
Mm-hmm. I agree, Lynette, a little bit. I mean, it's not over the top at all, but I do get that.
Like bitter and slightly sweet. The bitter is at the end, but the sweet is before.
Getting like some mild orange peel out of that.
Oh yeah.
There's sweetness in the aroma, and then there's a little bitter when you drink it, in my opinion.
Getting a little black licorice on the very back of the tongue.
Yeah,
Am I having a stroke?
No, I could see
Lucky
that.
you.
Now that you say that, I mean, you kind of sense other things when somebody makes a comment. You kind of see it, but yeah, I'm getting that kind of now that you say that, Paul.
Yeah, you have to be very careful when you ask what other people taste and something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get kind of the apple still as well. Somebody else was getting the apple.
Had getting a little apple flavor, but a lot of the aroma was very appley to me.
All right, so let's see. Now we've got some notes up here. I'm getting anywhere from lingering bitterness to slightly bitter, slightly citrus to piney to touch grassy. Back to bitterness. I see some malt bitterness. Do see that apple coming back, even some unpleasantness out there. A lot of other hop characteristics popping through in various palettes. We got grapefruit, lemon peel, dank, slightly citrus, piney, I think I already said.
And I think for me, the aftertaste is only in comparison to the other two. It's not, I mean, I don't mind that characteristic. It just is comparison wise, it's that way.
Yeah.
That word pronounced that starts with an A that's really long that means green apple?
Acetaldehyde.
Damn it, you beat me.
Speaking of Lee or Josh, since we did our tasting Monday, any other comments to add on flavor here that people haven't covered? Or that you taste different now than you did Monday?
I'm having trouble with the AHA slides, but I get a little bit of residual sugars, which would go along with the acetaldehyde that like fermentation didn't finish.
Okay.
Chemically speaking, I think it's just acetaldehyde.
Andy doesn't get any apple, which is very odd.
All right, looks like
Acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde.
there we go. There's our
say it with me.
acetaldehyde.
With the T. Acetaldehyde.
Yeah.
Acid got me high.
That's it. You
All
got
right.
it.
All right, Timothy Leary. On that note, let's go ahead and now make comments on our mouthfeel, and this will be the last character of this. Then we can go back and kind of talk about all the beers together and your comparisons against each other, because I've still got residual of all of the above here, so I'll be able to side-by-side benchmark them. So
Okay, while you guys are thinking, Jake, was it acetaldehyde?
With the T, there's got to be a T in there.
Acetaldehyde. Aldehyde.
Acid got me high.
Yeah, me too, but that's not where the comment's coming from.
all right. So we've got some comments coming in on the word cloud here. I'm seeing from sweet to dry. So there's a little variance in palates and how much of the sweetness we pick up.
I agree with the slightly creamy comment.
Okay. Yeah, I saw some lightly creamy. Somebody said clean. Words are hard. Live. That's an interesting descriptor.
Can someone pour me a beer?
We've still got Chris beers available for pickup at my house or Josh's or Clint's.
Chris,
Nice.
did you not have a daughter to pour you beers?
Well, I have beers here, but I don't think if I drink different beers and start commenting on them that it'll do much good.
No.
You know, with some
As far
At
as
this
being
point,
a
nobody's
beer-
going to know the difference. I mean,
All right.
with some better planning, we could probably handle some shipping. Personally, not part of the club, just like somebody that's cool wants to ship something somewhere, we could probably do that.
Well, James does go to Olathe every day. Well, okay. Tuesday through Saturday.
Yeah.
We're happy to get him to deliver to the store, and you guys can come pick and shop while you want for beer stuff at the Homebrew Pro Shop. Yes, I think that's my fourth. Anyway, I'll shut up.
And
Yeah, I think we can make it happen. I think we can expand our tastings. I think if they're popular, we should do it. There's lots of folks I think want to help.
All right. So after the last taste slide here, we can keep talking about the characteristics of the beer, but I do have a few other survey slides. So we'll work through them while people are talking about the beer here. Let's go ahead and think about your beer. You can quick cross taste them again. I'm going through all mine.
Are we gonna mix all three together for beer number 7?
Jake, I'm loving the beaker.
You know, that journey is yours and yours alone.
I'll go there with you, Tim.
Well, are we mixing it with acid too? I was
It's a school
Now
night.
I'm in.
All right, so we're getting some votes. It looks like beer number 4 is a strong lead, but beer number 5 has a vote. So go beer number 5. Beer number 6 is getting quashed. All right, we've got 11 of 13 or 11 of 15. It looks like some voters are coming back online, remembering their phones sitting next to them and turning it back on.
So I'm completely out of loop and I apologize for it. But so everyone brewed Two Hearted. So it's a club brewed Two Hearted. Is there also a commercial example in there as well?
People had the option to pick up their own commercial. I know Dale and Paul and I think Chuck all have the commercial handy with them, and Jake. So several folks do have the commercial on hand.
So is the commercial indicated on here, or are all the beers?
These are all 3 of these are home brews.
Okay.
So we're only competing them amongst themselves as far as favorite, kind of thing.
That's really cool. I love it.
More of a process comparison.
Yeah.
I got to say these 3 this week are much closer than last week. So.
And
Totally
much
agree.
better.
Yeah, totally agree.
Agreed.
Last month.
Okay.
But I'll say number 4 is just is as close as you could possibly get to a Bell's.
I may be I'm going to do the reverse of being biased because this includes my beer as one of these, but do point out that these have had a month to like settle out, clean up, and those kind of aspects. So they aren't necessarily a true 1-to-1 because those other ones were a lot greener beers, so these could be better, but just that is a variable that we can't control in this,
Sure.
It actually,
Hey, Ryan.
It actually was the opposite of what I expected. I thought we would get more oxidation in these beers, but I felt like we had a beer in the first round in January that actually had oxidation in it. This one, none of these really have it pronounced.
I heard Andy was going to say something.
Yeah, I actually got to drink, Kim and I got to drink all 6 beers in the last few hours. And so the first 3, when you commented on extra aging time,
I think maybe I might have a little bit different, or we might have a little bit different, opinion on the first three than what I just heard from somebody else.
Well, given that you had all 6 tonight and had them all freshly, would you say it holds that the second half was better than the first half, or
I'm gonna say yes, the second half was better. There was one beer in particular in the first half. In the chat, I wrote what I thought, actually what Centennial hops should taste like, and showcase. And I thought that was, well, we thought that was beer 1 and 6 as far as what Centennial should taste like. At least what my interpretation of it is, I guess. But tonight, I think all the beers in the second half were better.
Okay. Apparently, I goofed up my options on this, but these are just more general surveys. This is less about the beer. I figured I'd cover some of the content we talked about tonight in the final closing survey questions. And stay tuned, because we will be posting a sign up if you want to take your turn at brewing our next tasting for the April and May meetings. We will be taking 6 new volunteers. Not to say if you brewed this time you can't do it, but we are going to hold first to see if we get 6 new fresh ones. And then if by Sunday we still have 2 or 3 slots open, if people have signed up that already brewed before, we'll start filling those people into those slots. So, but we are giving a first come, first serve to the folks who haven't done it yet. And I see Paul's comment there, so I'll make sure, Paul, we get the sign up form sent out here in a couple minutes.
What's the style, or do we know yet?
It'll be on a slide. We'll cover that in just a sec. It's much more open-ended. It's going to be less like this, where it's everybody clones something. And I'll just sneak preview is a certain ingredient is required. Outside of that, the style and other aspects are pretty much up to you. So this is much less about cloning it and just more of, okay, everybody had to use X. What all did they do to it? And how, like Matt says in the comments, they're more Iron Chef. We wanted to keep it light and not give everybody 4 ingredients or whatever, but that you're forced to work with at least an ingredient. We figured we'd switch from technically complex to simpler back and forth as we do these tastings, just to make sure the full audience is their chance that they're comfortable hitting, kind of thing. All right, I'm going to move to the next slide. Have you helped judge or steward? It can be either, both, a competition before.
Oh my God.
Okay, are we almost done, Ryan?
We are. We're getting close.
Lovely.
Only a couple. I probably got 10-ish minutes total to run.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Seriously.
I'm hurrying. We had a good long seminar, so I'm trying to get through here.
Oh, the comments are just hysterical.
I understand.
All right. So I'll keep moving. So it looks like multiple of us have judged. We do have 1 non-judge. I do encourage you to, at a future opportunity, at least try stewarding. Judging, I am not BJCP certified. I have been interested in it, but I have amateur judged several times, and it has been a huge learning experience. Every time has just been a fire hose of information and more just reinforcing of those style guidelines. You have them in front of you, whether you use a phone app or printouts. But just it really does, as John said, it really does help drive that style knowledge into your head. But the
Travis
first time,
sorry, Ryan. Travis has a comment on Facebook about for the next brews to keep track of gravities and possibly fermentation temps for each beer.
Absolutely.
He would be about that information for the beer.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. Are you BJCP certified? We talked about the testing and how to do that tonight. So having seen that presentation, are you willing to or interested in? Are you not at all? Are you already certified? Was kind of getting heat for the room as we were talking about. We could do different things like start doing another, off flavor. We'll probably have to wait till we're in person because it is different. We would have, more or less, we'll probably wait to do off flavor till we're in person. We'll investigate if we have options to like he was saying, spike a beer and repackage it. That's probably a little more complicated than we want to deal with right now, but yeah. And we may
It's actually so it's actually pretty easy. Bud Light caps are twist off, so you can twist it off, spike it, and twist it back on. And that's how I make hop teas. I make all my hop teas where I'm trying to taste a hop flavor by putting 1/10 of a gram of hops into a Bud Light and then twist the cap back on, and you don't really
Okay.
lose anything from it.
well, it's something we can definitely look at. I won't rule it out. We'll see about the pricing on that. Obviously, Bud Light's not expensive, but just the overall package pricing and how that works into the guild funds for now. All right, so next question. I've been doing this one pretty much every survey just to see, and yes, I did review this data, and it has been increasing. So some of you that were holdouts have been finally breaking out the brew rigs. Initially, the survey results back in like April or May, there was only a couple folks who had brewed, but by mid-fall, it was about half and half. So as things have gone on, people are like, all right, time to brew.
So it's definitely something a lot more people have different brews either in process or finished up.
I know, I
since
probably
last
have to
time.
redo my question finally to instead of say yes, multiple, actually quantify that, just because at first, again, it was such a no or yes once were so heavy. And now at this point, I've brewed 12 times, like it's, they're getting a lot more brews. All right. And this is just open-ended. We talked about some of our other previous meetings. We're going to keep on with the virtual tastings, but what other elements do you have ideas for to keep making these virtual meetings engaging so you want to keep coming back?
I can add that to the survey. I'm going to post by the weekend.
Okay. All right, we've got more cowbell, more tastings, and Chuck's angelic laughter.
Oh, because I'm reading the freaking comments between Dale and Steiner. And I have angelic laughter, and I laugh from my belly button up. That's why I'm so loud.
All right. So just was curious to see.
On a serious note,
really,
as I'm vice president going forward, and I'm starting to think about seminars and topics and things that we can do to actually make the meetings better. That's going to kind of be my charge. If any of you do have some serious suggestions on what you would like to see, what you would like to learn, anything in that direction, is it more educational? Is it, more of the fun loving kind of thing with tastings, anything like that? Please give me feedback on that. I'm going to be doing a couple of polls and stuff like that to get some more ideas, and then also see if there's interest in people that want to give some talks on stuff that they're passionate about in this hobby. Reach out to me, reach out on Facebook, and then if I do the polls on the forums and Facebook, respond. So you can have an input on what we do going forward.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Josh, for taking that on. Okay, I think we are done for the live session. Everybody can stick around and hang out and chat as you feel like, but we are going to stop the live feed and have a good evening.
I have one more slide.
No.
Before we get that far,
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Duh.
You're a second late, Ryan.
I'll tell you what. So I'm just gonna talk to the live stream. You guys are no longer nobody can hear you. They can see you right now. I'm gonna make it so they can only see me. I will close up the live stream. I know you guys are having great fun. Last month I had to literally cut it off because we got into cussing at each other, and I don't believe that should be on YouTube under our organization's name. Beer number 4 was made by Jared and Angelo. Beer number 5 was Josh DeVee. Beer number 6 was Ryan. As Ryan said, there's a slide that I'm showing that is Ryan wants to do a homebrew tasting with 3 brewers making a strawberry beer and 3 breweries making a apricot beer. You'll be given the fruit so that you don't need to pay a bunch for the fruit. It can be expensive. He does have a link right there, a bit.ly link, bit.ly LBG 2021 spring. He's posted it in chat. Contact him directly through Facebook or the forums. He will help you get connected to how to brew that beer, what you need to brew that beer. And that should be the final slide. If anybody has any questions, you can contact us afterwards. Until then.
Or you can go ahead and fill out the form. I'm just going to withhold assigning you a part of the brew until after we see if there's new, fresh people that haven't done before. So even if you brewed this Bells round, feel free to still fill out the interest form. But for those who didn't, they will get the first slots and we'll backfill the remainder with people who might have brewed the Bells. So sign up if you're interested, period, either way, and we'll assign people accordingly. So fill out the darn form is what I'm trying to say.
Is it strawberry, fresh strawberry, or like a jar of strawberry?
I was going to be going for frozen, bags of frozen fruit, just for
what's a good strawberry beer
system. Say what?
One was Stephen Fritz, 2 was me, and 3 was Timothy with Josh. Oh, I thought you were on hand.
She called me late last night, say she loved me so. Didn't matter anymore. I say she never cared and that she never will. Do it all again, I guess I'll have to wait until then. And if I get drunk, well, I'll pass out on the floor now, baby. You won't bother me no more. And if you're drinking, well, you know that you're my friend, and I'll say, I think I'll have myself a beer. She called me late last night, say she loved me so. But I guess she changed her mind. Well, I should have known it wouldn't be alright. But I can't live without her, so I won't even try. If I get drunk, well, I'll pass out on the floor now, baby. You won't bother me no more. And if you're drinking, well, you know that you're my friend, and I'll say, I think I'll have myself a beer. Someday I'll think of what to say. Maybe next time I'll remember what to do. She looks like heaven. Maybe this is hell. She said she'd do it